Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let's take a look at different ways of handling vertical video in iMovie on your Mac. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now a lot of us shoot vertical video when we're using our iPhones. It's really easy to shoot this way even if you didn't intend to in the first place, and sometimes the video kind of calls for it. But when editing video in iMovie, iMovie really wants to put everything in horizontal mode. And this makes sense. If you're showing it, say, on a television, then you need to have it in horizontal mode. Televisions are horizontal. So what do you do if you've got vertical video? There are several different ways that you can handle it. So here I have a sample video here as a file, and you can see it's shot vertical on purpose in this case since the content kind of demands that. Now in iMovie, if I were to create a new project and then bring that video in, I'll simply drag and drop it in here. Then you could see I get here a horizontal video and the vertical video takes up the space in the middle. Now maybe this is fine, but if you want to do something a little different, here are some options. First, it would be great to be able to edit the vertical video in iMovie, and you actually can do it. If you click Create New, you only have two options here, Movie and Trailer, both of which are horizontal. But if you go to File, you'll see New Movie, New Trailer, and also New App Preview. This is a special mode for developers to create previews of their apps for submitting to the App Store. And it's vertical video, and you can use it too. So I'll select it here, and it's going to show me a little information. I can just ignore that. And now it looks like I'm in a regular iMovie project. But I'm going to drag this video in, and when I do, I can see I've actually got vertical video here. There's nothing to the left or right. So I can now go to File and Share and then File and export this, and I'll get vertical video. Now one problem with this is the highest resolution you're going to get is 1080. If you have 4K video, it's much more than that. So you really can't export something at a professional level this way. This is just great for sharing or making something to show at home. If you want to do this professionally, you're probably going to have to move to Final Cut Pro or some other app. Now you may be watching this because you've got vertical video, but it's not really vertical. It's horizontal, but for some reason your phone filmed it in the wrong orientation. So when you create a normal iMovie project like this and bring this in, you find that your video is vertical and it should be horizontal, you can easily just select it here in the timeline so it has a yellow outline. Then go to the cropping tools here at the top, and then you have a way to rotate it left or rotate it right. And this will correct the video. In this case it doesn't make sense for this example, but if yours was shot with the wrong orientation, this is a way to fix it and incorporate it in with the rest of your regular clips. So now let's look at ways to incorporate vertical video into a horizontal iMovie project. So I'm going to create a new movie project here, and I'm going to bring this video in. And of course, as I mentioned before, you could just leave it like this. But if you want it to fill the entire screen, you're going to have to crop it to select a horizontal area. So I'm going to use the cropping tool here at the top. Notice I've got it selected here in the timeline below. And then I'm going to switch from Fit, which is going to make sure it fits vertically, thus creating these two blank spaces on either side. I'm going to change to Crop to Fill. And now you get a box here that's the correct ratio for your project. You can position this wherever you want. You want to, of course, center it so it's just grabbing video and none of the blank space to either side. And maybe get it to where it's going to show something that makes sense. I'll get it to showing this area right here. I'll click the checkmark button, and now you can see I've got horizontal video. It's cropping out everything at the top and bottom. And this may work for a lot of video that you shoot. Now another option you've got in the cropping tools here is to choose Ken Burns. So this gives you a crop area for the start and end. So for instance, I can have the start up a little higher and end a little lower. I can not only move the position but actually change the size of this. So this is where it starts. This is where it ends over the length of the video. So now when I go to play it, if I scrub past, you can see how it gets lower and lower. So this is a good way to handle some video, especially short clips. You can always break the clip by selecting an area here in the middle and then using Command B. And I've got two separate clips, and each one of these could have a separate start and end. So for instance, you could pan down for this one, and then for this one you could have it start here and end up. So now it goes down, then back up over the length of the two parts of the clip. Now let's say you just want to show everything just like this. Have it be vertical video in the middle of a horizontal project. Well, you can do better than having black on both sides. You can put a background there. So I'm going to switch to backgrounds here. And there are a variety of different backgrounds you can choose. Let's choose something pretty simple, like for instance a solid color here, like maybe this blue. Now I want to get this blue underneath the clip. You notice I can't drag it underneath. So what you're going to do is drag it to the right. Put it over there. Then you're going to take this clip and lift it up. iMovie basically has two layers. The overlay layer at the top and the main layer here at the bottom. So I'm basically placing the video here as the overlay layer and the background as the main layer. And I'll stretch this so it covers the same amount. Usually I find it's best to try it a couple times to get it to snap. So now you can see I've got blue instead of black here on either side. And I could have chosen one of these other colors. I could have chosen something like these gradients here or one of the patterns as well. Now it would be nice to separate the vertical video from the background a little bit. And you can do that, but not by using a standard overlay. I'm going to select the overlay here, which is my video. Go to the overlays section there. And I've got cutaway, which is what I'm using now. Then green, blue screen. That doesn't apply here. Split screen won't work here either. But picture in picture will work. If I select that, then you can see this appears as a little picture in picture. I'm going to snap it to the top, drag it to the bottom. You have to kind of approximate it there. And then snap it to the middle. And now it looks pretty much the same. If I click the check mark there, you really can't tell the difference. But with picture in picture, I've got some options. One of those is a border. So I can have no border, a single line border, or a thick border there. And I could choose a color as well by clicking on the color chip here and using the color picker to select any color I want. So now I've got black lines there and you can see it sets it apart a bit. But in addition, I could go in and have a shadow. I can even turn the border off and the shadow actually works by itself to create a little separation from the background. Now some of the backgrounds here actually are animated. If I look at the first row in particular, I have a bunch of different things here. And if I move my pointer over it, you could see the animation previewed over here. So there are a few things that you can do. I'm going to take the blobs one. I'm going to drag it and replace the background that's there. And then I'm going to stretch it so it fits the same length. Now you can see this animation here. Now if you don't like the colors of the animation, just select it. And you can actually go to the color tools here and you could change the tint a little bit, the saturation if you want, brightness, make it brighter or darker. Do a variety of different things to create a different color there. You can even click on this tool here and say match color and then go to a specific frame in the overlay. Click there and it will match the colors inside of your original video. So create something that looks a little bit more natural. Now instead of using a different animated background, you can just use the same video instead. So just to make it easier to start from here, I'm going to delete everything and I'm going to drag in my vertical video there and drag it in again on top of that. So it's being used as both an overlay and as the main timeline. So I'm going to select the overlay part. I'm going to change it to picture in picture as before. And I'm going to overlay it perfectly on top like that. Then I'm going to take the main timeline here at the bottom and I'm going to go to cropping and I'm going to say crop to fill and select an area like that. And now you can see the main timeline here is full and the overlay is just the middle picture in picture. And this is a fact you see a lot of people use to compensate for not having the left and right sides on vertical video. But you can select the main timeline here and do a variety of different things with it. For instance, you can go to colors here and you can make it significantly darker, desaturate it or supersaturate it, tint it a little bit like that so that you get something that looks a little different. In addition, I'll reset it here and then I'll go to filters and I'll change the clip filter to something else. There are a variety of different things that you could use for interesting clip filters. I'm going to go over to the one called X-ray. That's a pretty drastic change. And notice I can change the amount of the X-ray. So I can actually get it something close to just in the middle there to dim it or dim it with a negative effect there. And then you could go and add color effects to this as well to get what you want. Sometimes it also helps to zoom in an extra amount. So I will crop it tighter here like this. And now that you zoomed a lot more, it doesn't conflict too much with what you're seeing on the sides and what you're seeing in the middle. Now if you don't like having movement in the sides and in the main part here in the middle, you can just have a still frame from your video. A quick way to do that is to open up the video in QuickTime Player and then go to a frame that you want to use as the still frame. So I use this one right here. And then you could go to Edit, Copy. Then I'm going to open up Preview. And in Preview I'm going to do File, New from Clipboard. And you can see it creates a still image from the frame I copied. So I'm going to do Command S to save that. And I'm going to just name it Still here. And you can see now I've got it right there. And now I could go back into iMovie here and replace this with the still frame. And then now you want to drag it out so that it matches the length. There you go. And then make sure that you cropped it so that it's showing a portion of that. And now you get the same thing, but it's still on either side. And you could still go in and create a filter for it. Like I'll use the sci-fi filter here. And you could still go in and change the colors of it if you want to get what you want. And if you're using an image editing tool rather than Preview to create the still frame, you can do all sorts of special effects. Like for instance, you can blur the image so it's blurry on either side and resembles the video in the middle even though you can't see the details. One thing I want to mention is that sometimes you'll end up with transitions here. See the little dots at the top left and the top right? If you look at the frames past it, you can see it's fading in and fading out. You can simply drag these to the end there so the transition is eliminated. So it's full strength right at the beginning all the way to the end. Now another thing you could do is instead of showing the entire vertical video here, you could zoom in on a portion of it and then animate which portion is seen. So to do that, go to the overlay controls here. This is what we're looking for. This is the keyframe controls. So I'm going to move the playback head to the beginning there. And I'm going to click here to create a new keyframe. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to position this where I want, including resizing. So I'm going to stretch this a bit so it's a bit bigger. And I'm going to start right here in the middle. And I can snap it to the middle there like that. Now I'm going to move the playback head forward a bit. And I'm going to add another keyframe. You'll notice sometimes the keyframe stuff disappears. Make sure you have the clip selected. Now click here and you added a second keyframe. And then let's make it look like I'm kind of pointing down. So I'm going to drag up. Now if I look at the video between these two keyframes, you can see it goes from the middle and now it's pointing down. Now I can go over to another section here, move the playback head there, and then select the video. Sometimes the keyframe thing goes away on its own. Just switch away to another tool and then back again. Click here to add a new keyframe and then let's have it looking up like this. Matter of fact, go all the way to the top there. So now if I look here, it goes middle, down, and then up. I can keep adding keyframes. When you have keyframes, you can use these arrows to jump to each keyframe. Notice how the playback head is jumping to each one. And you can remove a keyframe by clicking there. It does take some practice, so don't expect to be able to just do exactly what you want the first time. Maybe have a practice sample video where you animate with keyframes to get the hang of it, especially how these controls kind of disappear and you have to, constantly go back and forth between things to get it to reappear. It'll take some trial and error to get things just the way you want, but the result can look pretty good. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to deal with vertical video in iMovie on the Mac. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.